Good morning to everyone. We are here with Easton Book Festival on the morning of Saturday, October 17th, and we're very proud to have Aiyana Stanley-Jones here. And Easton Book Festival is sponsored by WDIY, Lehigh Valley Public Radio, and also by the Lafayette Humanities Center, as well as Pre-K for PA and Start Strong PA, both of which advocate for having outstanding preschool opportunities available for all children, and also by the Greater Easton Development Partnership. Now, Aiyana Stanley-Jones has written quite a number of books, and the one that she's going to be talking about this morning and reading this morning is The Talk, a Black Family's Conversation about Racism and Police Brutality. And now I'm very honored to turn this over to Aiyana Stanley-Jones.
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate the Easton Book Festival for having me and creating this venue in which, even though we are apart, we can be together and enjoy literature and enjoy ideas. So my name, as was told by Andy, is Aiyana Stanley-Jones, and I am an author, an attorney, and a storyteller. So families, let's be honest. It has not been an easy 6 or 7 months or so. Let's be honest. It's been pretty challenging. At first, we had the challenge of COVID-19 with social distancing, not being able to go to school, not being able to go in person to school, in person to churches and synagogues and temples and places of worship, not being able to shop and go to our favorite amusement parks. It has been challenging. Then on top of that, just as we were struggling with COVID-19, many things happened in our nation that allowed us to recognize that not all people in this country are being treated equal. Sadly, we've seen the violence that has occurred, the police brutality which has occurred, the racism and everyday acts of racism and stereotyping and prejudice which have happened. And it hasn't been easy for us. So when all of this was going on, of course, I was struggling myself, as many parents were, in dealing with my children's online education and shifting my own work from in-person work to virtual work. And I thought to myself, what can I do about this, right? I'm not an essential worker in terms of health. We know that there are many wonderful doctors, nurses, orderlies, and hospital administration who have been working very hard, have been working extremely diligently in making sure that people are able to heal from COVID-19. I'm not one of those people. We also know there are many grocery store workers who have been essential. At times, it has been challenging. We've had long lines just to get basic needs such as toilet paper, and our wonderful workers in supermarkets have been incredibly helpful, as well as our postal service workers. So I thought to myself, what can I do? And I decided that as an author, I should actually write a book that really centers us in this moment, centers us in this time, and helps family to talk about what's going on with COVID-19 and being at home, as well as, and primarily to discuss racism and police brutality. So that is why I wrote this book, The Talk, a Black Family's Conversation about Racism and Police Brutality. I am going to read from that book today, and we're going to have a brief discussion about it. Is that okay with everyone? I'm getting very excited. Is that okay? Wonderful. So I don't like doing this because unfortunately with Zoom, when we zoom in, right? Very often you're not going to actually see my face, but I want you to see some of the book because I think the illustrations are so beautiful that I would want you to see some of those illustrations. So I may actually go back and forth between reading it and sharing my screen so you can see some of those illustrations. So again, we're going to start. This is the book, The Talk, a Black Family's Conversation about Racism and Police Brutality, and it is by me, Aiyana Stanley-Jones, and it's illustrated by a wonderful illustrator named Ashley Al-Sime. So I'm going to let you see the screen for a moment. So now all of you can look at the wonderful cover. And you're going to see from the illustrations that this book really is centered. If anyone were to read this 20 years from now, they would know that it was written without looking at the copyright date. They would know that it was written in 2020 during this time. Okay, so we're going to start. Finally, Jaden was done with online school. Now he could find something more fun to do. He asked his sister Jasmine if she wanted to play. Soccer seemed like a good game for the day. Jaden and Jasmine went to the backyard and played soccer together. It was so great to run around and frolic in the nice weather. They had to stay home more often due to COVID-19, but they tried their best to go outside to enjoy air that was clean. First, Jasmine scored, then Jaden scored, and it was a tied game, but Jaden wanted a break and a drink, and Jasmine felt the same. They went into the kitchen for a drink of water. But their home felt heavy. There was a different aura. Jaden and Jasmine approached the living room. They walked slowly because they feared doom and gloom. Mom and Dad were hugging and crying. On the TV screen, they saw someone dying. A white police officer was choking a Black man with his knee. The sight was so awful, horrendous, and painful to see. Their mother straightened up and asked them to go back and play. But their father said, "Nah, baby, I think that they should stay. They're getting older and it's time for a serious conversation. We can't shelter them from the horrible things happening in our nation." Mom muted the TV and they all sat down in chairs. Then Mom and Dad took tissues to wipe their own tears. Mom said, "You two are the most important people in our lives. You both are loved, adored, admired, and very much prized. As children of African descent, you have emerged from a powerful hereditary line. When you keep studying your history, you will learn that every time. You are descendants of giants who are too numerous to name. Don't you differently in their attempts to offer you shame." For example, Imhotep of Egypt was the world's greatest scientist, while Mansa Musa of the Mali Empire was the earth's wealthiest. Queen Nzinga, Gaspar Yanga, Nat Turner, Harriet Tubman, Toussaint Louverture, and Yawson made freedom their aim. Marcus Garvey, Kwame Nkrumah, Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, and Dr. King did the same. You two are loving, brilliant, complex, and whole human beings. You defy all of the negative stereotypes we have been seeing. Since birth, Jasmine, you have loved the stars. So at age 5, you wrote a 10-page paper on Mars. Every time you start sharing your scientific knowledge, I think to myself that my little girl should already be in college. At age 6, Jaden, you were so saddened when you met a homeless man, you immediately got busy starting a lemonade stand. When you raised over 1,000 for the Homeless Coalition, the local Chamber of Commerce offered you an honorary position. Dad then said, "While most people will truly see you and know that you are great, there are others who will stereotype and judge you with haste. With prejudice in their hearts and minds, they assume that they know your kind. They have terrible and false images of people of African descent in their heads. They will relate to you using those images rather than get to know you instead. Those false images were created to keep our people subservient and oppressed. Sadly, some people choose to believe those images and defend them with zest. Those people may assume that you are up to no good when in fact you are just jogging in the neighborhood. They could call the police and assume that you are a robber when you are just entering your own home and in fact you are a doctor. A man or woman might call the police and lie that you're threatening him or her, but in fact you're just enjoying nature because you're a bird watcher. Mom then said, many of these incidents just cause emotional dread, but in some of the worst cases, an unarmed person winds up dead. There is an illness of evil and the desire to dominate and show aggression. People with this illness are present in every profession. Police officers who we trust to protect, serve, and show goodwill are sometimes the very people who needlessly harm, injure, and kill. An FBI report says that law enforcement may be infiltrated by white supremacist hate groups. Certain members cover Aryan tattoos and white robes and hoods with blue police suits. Militarized police officers sometimes act like they're on a battlefield. We have to change the entire mindset of policing in order for our nation to be healed. You just saw on TV that a white cop killed a black man with his knee. The black man was George Floyd, and he was pleading, "I can't breathe." Many people witnessed George Floyd's painful last moans. His senseless killing was recorded on multiple cell phones. But that is just one case from a long list. This type of thing happens so often. We proclaim Black Lives Matter because too many Black people are ending up in coffins. In some cases, a Black person is just watching TV, sleeping at home, or playing video games. Police shoot them dead before even announcing themselves or asking civilians for their names. Sadly, the media usually assigns the victim the blame. They dig up false or irrelevant anecdotes to tarnish his or her good name. There is the case of Tamir Rice, who was just a kid playing with a toy gun. The police asked no questions, shot him, and now he'll never see the sun. Trayvon Martin was also a kid just walking home after buying Skittles and iced tea. A man called him a punk, then killed him. The man wasn't even a cop, just a cop wannabe. Jaden replied, "That is horrible. He was just a kid walking with Skittles and iced tea. That could happen to anyone. It could happen to me." Mom answered, "Yes." Aiyana Stanley-Jones was a 7-year-old girl sleeping in bed. A bunch of police officers raided her home and shot her dead. Jasmine exclaimed, "What? It's crazy that police could kill a little girl as she was sleeping." Mom said, "It is sickening. When I first heard about it, I spent the whole day weeping." Dad responded, "We love you, and we really want you to be happy and carefree, but it is our responsibility as parents to let you know how challenging life can be. If one day you are approached by a cop, the very first thing you should do is stop. Be calm and measured. Speak slowly and clearly. It would not be the time to be loud. I mean that sincerely. Do not run, jump, or make any other quick motions. Again, you must be in complete control of your emotions. Police officers are human beings too, and they are under a lot of strain. They can get startled, accidentally pull a trigger without using their brains. So keep your hands up where the police can see them easily. You want to get out of this situation peacefully. If you have told them your name and they are still asking you strange questions, tell them that you have the right to remain silent. That is my strong suggestion. Do not hit, touch, or in any way confront the officer. Just remember his or her badge number, and later we will get a lawyer. Call us and let us know what is happening as soon as you can. We will be there to help you and come up with a plan. Jaden and Jasmine, are you listening? Are you taking heed? Yes, Daddy, they said, because they understood him indeed. Jaden said, I'm young, but I felt some of this type of stuff before. It's like when I'm just shopping, but the manager's eyeing me at the store. Jasmine chimed in, yes. Or like when I'm at school and doing well in my classes, but my teachers act like I'm just like the masses. Of other kids who don't pay attention, it's like they don't want to give me a favorable mention. Jaden responded, we hear the news and have an idea about what's going on out there. It's sad and scary, Mom and Dad, and it's just not fair. You're right, Dad agreed. And we're sick of this crap. We'd love to take a role to solve it, but for that, there is no such map. But times are changing, Mom declared, and we're working to eliminate racism and police brutality. I'm hopeful that change will come and society will one day be free from the harmful mentality. We are shouting Black Lives Matter while peacefully protesting. We are calling up our elected officials, and of course, we are voting. Through our organizations, we are demanding changes in the laws. The universe is on our side, and we will eventually win this cause. You two are young and must continue to learn, run, play, and pursue your wildest ambitions. Your happiness, joy, improvement, and successes provide fuel for our parental missions. Jasmine said, I understand. I'm studying to be like Mae Jemison and travel to space. I'm not deterred. I'll overcome any of the challenges that I might face. Jaden replied, I'm preparing to be a CEO and master the money game. I'm about economic freedom, not glamour or fame. Mom rejoiced, I love it. Show your Black boy joy and Black girl magic. Not everything in this world is sad and tragic. Despite the trials and tribulations that we meet, the daily victories of our lives are still sweet. We are living, loving, and growing each day. With hope, faith, and work, we are finding our way. Mom and Dad told Jaden and Jasmine to always love themselves and to be proud of their race. Then they stood up, held out their arms for an embrace. Mom and Dad said, we love you, to which Jaden and Jasmine replied, we love you too. And that is the end of the story, but it's not the end of the learning. So here you have the manuscript, and you see in the back, you have a glossary of names and terms. So some of you may not be familiar with all of the references in the book. Various victims of police brutality are mentioned, various historical figures are mentioned. And so this is a book that keeps on giving, because you're going to read about it. You'll say, who's Tamir Rice? Who's Trayvon Martin? Who's Aiyana Stanley-Jones? Well, it's all in the back. So you can read about Aiyana Stanley-Jones, who's a beautiful little girl who unfortunately was just sleeping when a police raid came to her home, and she got shot and she was killed dead. You'll read about what it means to be armed, which means having a weapon. You hear this term in the book, Black boy joy. We tell you what that is. Black girl magic, Black Lives Matter, which is a movement. Of course, COVID-19 is in the book. Dr. King, most of you know who Dr. Martin Luther King is, but we still put it in there, right? But other important figures like Gaspa Yanga, many people have not heard of him. And he's reportedly of Royal West African lineage, and he became known as the premier libertador de America, which means liberator, right, in Spanish, the first liberator of the Americas. So when you get the books, you'll be able to read George Floyd, you'll be able to read about all of these important figures, and so that will give you more context to the book. So let me stop sharing, and let's actually talk, young people, because I'm so happy to have you here and have parents here. So it has been a challenging time, right? We've been dealing with COVID-19, and we've been dealing with racism and prejudice, which have been front and center. And the book's main goal is to provide a guide, so to speak, to having this conversation, to be able to talk about these things. Like, what is a stereotype? It's a potentially false, but very, I would say, narrow image of a person. So or a group of people. So let's say I were to say, what color do girls like? Many of you might say pink. That's a stereotype. Are there girls who don't like pink? Absolutely, right? I know girls who like blue. I know girls who like green, right? It's a stereotype. It's a small snippet image about a person or a group of individuals. If I say, who likes blue? People might say boys, right? But there are boys who don't like blue. So we're discussing that. We're discussing the fact that unfortunately, there are stereotypes in the world. There are these little images of people. They're kind of like caricatures. They're just a little image in a little way in which we narrow groups of people down, when in fact, groups of people are diverse, have different interests. Some people are good of all races. Some people are not so good. Some people are kind. Some people are not so kind. So there's no group of people that we can make any generalizations, right? They're no group of people. But unfortunately, sometimes people try to do that, and it leads to a lot of trouble. So this is what this book addresses, as well as the main issue of, unfortunately, really resolving this issue of police brutality so we all can feel safe. We love police officers who are good and kind and who are helping citizens every day. But unfortunately, there's this culture sometimes in which police officers are killing innocent people. And we want that to stop. All Americans deserve to be safe. Don't you agree with me? So I hope you will get a copy of the book. This is the hardcover. It's also available in soft cover. And I hope that you'll read it again and again and again as we deal with these issues as a nation. Additionally, I didn't show this to you before. Besides just the glossary, there are also some questions and answers well, no answers. You have to give the answers. But there are questions for discussions in the back. So let me give you some of the questions. Many historical figures in African diaspora history are mentioned. Who are the figures? You can go back and learn about that. But another one is, the story mentions the militarized police force. What does that mean? What does it mean for a police force to be militarized? Think about that. What does that mean? How do you envision police interacting with people in the community? What is your own vision for how police engage with people? Another one is, what do the phrases Black boy joy and Black girl magic mean? How do you relate to those phrases? And there are also activities. So this is an activity. This story uses poetry to address the social issue of police brutality. Please write a poem or story that addresses a social issue. So you can become a social activist storyteller as well, and I'm hoping you will be. Another one is, when people attend protests, they go there with signs. Create a sign for a potential protest using recycled material such as a cardboard box. This is something you can easily do. You don't need to go out to Blix Art or Walmart and buy a expensive canvas. You get a box from Amazon or any other company, you create art and you can create your own sign. What else? Write a letter to your local government officials. The letter should express your feelings about police brutality and racism, as well as your demands with respect to what government officials should do to eliminate police brutality. So many of you are under 18. And because you're under 18, you can't do something. What is it you can't do when you're under 18? Well, there's a lot you can't do, but what's something you can't do that starts with a V and ends with an E? You guessed it, vote. If you're under 18, you can't vote. But that doesn't mean you don't have a voice, right? So you can write letters to your police officials. You are residents and citizens and you have a voice. So I hope you'll do that activity. And another one, organize a discussion about racism or police brutality for your school, church, or organization. So those are some of the activities. Hopefully through this book, you will recognize that you have a voice and that we all are forging a better world, which is free of stereotypes, free of racism, and free of police brutality. Are you with me, young people? I think that you are. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Amma. We're so inspired by your words, and kids can get the book, The Talk, A Black Family's Conversation About Racism and Police Brutality through the Book and Puppet Company website. And thank you for coming for Easton Book Festival this morning. We hope to see you for many more programs. Thank you again for Amma Kari Yawson. Yay!
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity, and I am so grateful that we are promoting literacy, learning, and family engagement at this time. Thank you, Easton Book Festival.